Okay, picking up, we're left off on page 167. We're talking about the kinds of things that can fit inside the parentheses, inside that argument list. And you may ask yourself, well, that's all fine and good, but how do I know, what's legitimate? For example, remember we talked about text? If I go in here and I say some, hello, comma 2. Well, it's going to try to add hello with 2. What's that going to do? Well, it's going to come back and say, dude, okay, that ain't right. Well, there is a thing here called the insert function button. It's kind of small. It's right here. If you click that, it'll basically go in and tell you what all the things are that's legitimate. And it'll immediately tell you as you're going along. You just go, no, that's not a legitimate value. So this is a kind of a good way of getting more information. It's almost like tooltips on steroids. If you go in here and do a tooltip thing, if I go here and I go, sum, and then this is the tooltip, this thing right here. It's telling me that it wants a number. Well, does it really want a number or something that can substitute for a number, like a cell reference or a named range? So number doesn't mean number. Number means something that looks like a number. Okay, but hello doesn't look like a number. So if you want to get more, you can just stop right where you're at and just go here, and then it tells you a little bit more about it. Logical values and text values are ignored and included all the rest of this stuff. Okay, kind of cool. So I kind of use that as sort of like if I'm lost, I don't really remember, what that function is expecting, then I go to the little the insert function button, and it'll tell me a lot more. Okay. So on page 168, they talk about the categories of functions, and there's a bunch of functions that we're going to go through, and I'm not going to go list the categories. That's not really relevant. So let's move on. So the first one they talk about on that page is the math and trigonometry functions. Now, these are kind of sort of simple. I think you could probably just look at the chart, where they list them all and kind of be okay. So for example, if I put in here, a 42 and a negative 42, and I go here and I say I want the absolute value. So if you look at that chart, tell me which one of those is absolute value. Well, it's ABS, and I'm just going to grab, using just a normal relative addressing guy, I'm going to hit that, and it says, well, and so I grab that, pull it down, and so the absolute value of 42 is 42, and the absolute value of negative 42 is 42. Okay, so not much to it, right? I mean, and let's look at the cell reference. the tooltips here. There's not much to absolute value. Basically, it takes a number. Well, does it really mean a number? Yeah, a number or a cell reference or a named reference or a named range or something that points to a number. What happens if I gave it a range of things? Is it going to look at that and go, huh? Yeah. So you really want a single number here. Okay, cool. Again, how'd you know that for sure? Well, you don't. The only way to really know is to go ahead and start typing ABS and then go hit the little function button, or function button here or the function button there, and bring up the whole thing and tell you a little bit more about it, and all the numbers and blah blah blah. Okay, let's continue. Okay, the next one's called int. So if I go in here and I have 42.99999, and I have 42.00001. Okay, cool. And go here and I say int, and this is round the number down to the nearest integer, down. Okay, so what's this going to be? Is this going to be a 43? No. How about this guy? It's rounding down, right? So int. Okay, so it's just a fancy way of doing rounding. There is a cool one called rand. Rand is for maybe I'm in the midst of doing something and I just want to have a random number thrown in there. And if I do rand will just pop me out a number. Unfortunately, the way it works is, well, let me just go ahead and show you. The way it works is it spits out a decimal number. And for a random number, that's kind of weird. Most people, like if I want a random number between, 50 and 100, Well, then I would do this other one called ran between. I'm not even going to type it. I want to do that. And then say between 50 and 100. Okay. So, you know, it's kind of cool. For example, if I didn't want to type these grades in, you know, I could have used that and have that, you know, randomly generate some data for us to play with. Okay. Rounding is the normal thing. So if I go over here and I say round, just the normal round, I'm going to grab that guy and he's going to say, whoa, what did I do wrong? I have to tell it how many digits. And I'll take 2 digits. I guess if I'm going to do 2 digits, I better show 2 digits. So it rounded it off to 2 digits. Okay, and there's a round up and a round down. I'm sure you guys can play with that. So int kind of was like a truncate function. It took all the fractional parts away. Round, I could have said round comma 0, which it would have been essentially the same thing. You know, rounding off or rounding down, rounding up. So a round down with a 0 is essentially the same thing as int. Kind of cool. All right. Let's input. So we talk about the autocomplete feature on page 171. They talk about how you know, you're halfway through, you know, this function. For example, I want to do round down, and you know, it kind of sort of helps you out, and you can say, oh well, I want that, and how many digits I want, you know, 4, and it's just, you know, tooltip kind of stuff. I kind of like it. So there's some other things that it can do. One of the things it does is, as you're typing this thing, it shows the current argument in bold. For example, I'm gonna do this again. This time I'll do round up. Round up, is that like weeds? Now see how the one that I'm on now is the one that's in bold. So if I click on something and hit the comma, now it's asking me for the number of digits. So it's kind of prompting me. So the argument that's in bold is the one that I'm currently thinking about. And I'm going to say, I don't know, 0. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Statistical functions. So on page 172, this is not really a math course, so some of this I'm just going to gloss over. If you don't understand what the terms mean, well then, okay, don't worry about it too much. When we come to that point, most likely you won't be asked to choose which one you're talking about. So average, that would be a good one. We've kind of done this before, so let's go here and I'm going to type A, B. I don't know why they don't just abbreviate this, but this one's one of the ones they don't abbreviate. Average. And then I grab that range, pop it in, and boink, I get an average. Woohoo! Count. Count is one that basically says how many of these things have values in them. Okay? So I'll light these guys up, and all it's going to do is tell me how many there are, and there's 22 of them. Okay, that's it. Nothing fancy. Now here's an interesting thing. Count is designed for... Okay, let's just go here. I'm going to count how many things are here. So I'm going to say count. And I'm going to grab this and drag it down. 0? What do you mean 0? I mean, there aren't anything in there? Well, count was really designed for numbers, okay? That's what they were designed for. Oddly enough, remember when I talked about the dates and times? Remember that? How if I go in here and I say, you know, 12/25/2015. Dang. And then over here I have, I don't know, 12:30 p.m. Okay. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to do count again. So, is this going to work? It says yeah. So, why does it work? Because these guys are actually numbers. Okay, they don't look like numbers, but this is an integer value and this is a fractional value behind the scenes. Okay, so count works with numbers or things that internally are being represented by numbers, all right? But not text. This won't work. So there's another one. There's another one called Count A. And I'm just going to go here and edit my formula. Go up here and just put the cursor right where I want it. Put the capital letter A in there. Doink. Ah. So now A, Count A, means give me everything that ain't blank. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's a number. So here, if I go here and, I don't know, blank this out, that's going to change to a 3. Okay? Cool. So count is for numbers or things that look like numbers. Count A is going to be everything that ain't blank. Well, no matter what it is, no matter what's in there, that's not relevant. That means count every cell that is not blank. By the way, there is one called is blank or count blank, which is the exact opposite. So count blank tells me everything that is blank, how many blank lines there are, and then count A tells me how many that are not. So the sum of the two should be how many rows you have, right? Okay, cool. Median. This is not a math course, but you know the mean, the mode, and the median are different statistical terms. On, for example, this average is called the mean. There's one called mode and one called median. So let's just do median. And median basically, the way it's designed to work is median means you take the lowest one and the highest one, and then you just pick the one that's in the middle, okay? The middle of the range, okay? That's what median means. See, I told you this wasn't going to be a math course, and then I went around and just explained it anyway. So the mean is 81. So the average was 79, but the mean. And then there's one called the mode. And mode means which one was most prevalent, okay? I'm not even sure I have anything in here that it appears more than twice. So here we're going to try it anyway. So I'm going to go in here and say mode, and there's different kinds of modes, and I'm not worried about that. I'm going to go to this one called mode single. Ah, come on, give me a break. And I'm not exactly certain what this is going to do, Benz. It doesn't look like my numbers are all that great. Yeah, 89. So in other words, whatever number appeared the most is the one that appears here. So that's mean, median, and mode. Okay. Woohoo! Let's move on. So the next one talks about date and time. So if you want to dissect a date and pull out like different things. For example, here, I want to pull out like just the month. Okay, so I would go here and I would say, what do you think, month? Wow, what an idea. And you click on that little guy and it spits out a 12. You think I could do one for something like day? Woohoo! What do you think? There's probably one called year. Okay, cool. All right, the next one on the list is the date diff function, and it was designed so you could calculate the difference between two dates. It's not supported anymore. I'm not even sure why it's in the textbook. But you remember when I talked about how dates in Excel were actually just numbers? And so you can do math on numbers, right? So I can go in here and, for example, and I can put in, I don't know, let's put in 8/21, 2015. Okay, so now I have two dates. If I want to know the distance between the 21st of August and Christmas, it's just normal math. So I take this minus that, and that'll show me how many days. It's 126 shopping days till Christmas. Okay, so that's one technique of doing that. And as you can imagine that if you wanted to know how many months that was, it'd be a little bit more complicated. Okay, so continuing on in the date and stuff, there's someone called network days, and it almost sounds like they're saying network days, but it's net work days. In other words, how many days between two days, but not counting Saturdays and Sundays. Okay, so let's do that. I want to do net work days. Okay, that's the one that I want. And so I'm going to have this date, and I'm going to have this date. And so this will tell me that there's 91, work days between the two dates. Okay, this is a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.